What if I told you that every night when you fall asleep, your brain becomes more active than when you're awake? Not resting, not shutting down, but working harder than ever rewiring who you are. Let me challenge something you believed your entire life. You think sleep is rest. You think it's the moment your brain finally shuts down, like turning off the lights in an empty room. But that picture is completely wrong, because the moment you fall asleep, your brain doesn't power off. In many ways, it powers up. Think about this. If sleep were truly nothing, if your brain actually stopped working, you wouldn't wake up, not refreshed, not thinking, not even alive. So clearly something else is happening, something far more active, far more important, and far more strange. Here's a better way to picture it. Your brain is not a light switch, it's a city. During the day, that city is chaotic, cars moving, people talking, decisions being made every second. Everything is noisy, messy, reactive. But when night comes, the city doesn't disappear, it changes shifts. Construction crews come out, maintenance teams take over, systems get repaired, upgraded, reorganized. What looks like quiet from the outside is actually intense activity on the inside. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Scientists have measured brain activity during sleep, and what they found is shocking. Certain parts of your brain become just as active, sometimes more active than when you're awake. Let that sink in. You are lying there completely still, not moving, not speaking, not conscious. And yet your brain is firing signals, coordinating patterns, running processes at full speed. It's like a factory working the night shift with no supervisor watching. So why does it feel like nothing is happening? Because your awareness is gone. You're not experiencing the work. You're not watching the process to you. It feels like a gap in time, a black hole between yesterday and tomorrow. But from your brain's perspective, that gap is the main event. Let me make this even clearer. Imagine you record a full day of your life, every word you say, every face you see, every decision you make. Now imagine pressing pause on that recording. You'd think everything stops, right? But sleep isn't pause. Sleep is what happens behind the scenes. While the recording is being edited, clips are being cut, moments are being rearranged, mistakes are being erased, and you, the main character, don't even know it's happening. This is why the idea of doing nothing during sleep is so misleading. Because biologically, sleep is one of the most expensive things your body does. It costs energy, it requires coordination, it's carefully regulated. Evolution does not keep expensive processes for no reason. If sleep were useless, we would have gotten rid of it millions of years ago, but we didn't. In fact, every complex organism needs it, which means one thing: sleep is not optional maintenance. It's essential operation. And here's the twist most people miss: you don't control it. You can delay it, ignore it, fight it with caffeine and screens, but eventually it wins, because the processes happening during sleep are not things you can just skip. They are things your brain must do to keep you functional. So the next time you lay down at night, don't think of it as shutting off. Think of it as handing control over to a system far more powerful than your conscious mind. A system that works in silence, in darkness, without your permission, rebuilding you while you disappear. And this is just the beginning. Because once you understand that sleep isn't rest, the real question becomes, what exactly is your brain so busy doing while you're gone? Let me ask you something simple. What happens if you never take out the trash? Not for a day, not for a week, but for months. At first, nothing dramatic, maybe just a smell, but slowly it builds raw toxins, decay until the space you live in becomes unlivable. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Your brain has the exact same problem. All day long, just by thinking, your brain produces waste. Every thought you have, every movement you make, every memory you process, creates microscopic byproducts, proteins, toxins, debris. And if those build up, they don't just make your brain messy. They interfere with how your neurons communicate. They slow you down, cloud your thinking, damage the system itself. So here's the real question. When does your brain clean all of that up? You're busy all day processing information, reacting to the world. There's no time to shut everything down and clean. So when does it happen? It happens when you sleep, but not in the way you think. This isn't some passive process where things slowly drift away. This is an active, full-scale cleaning operation. Scientists discovered something remarkable. When you fall asleep, your brain actually changes its structure. The cells slightly shrink. Tiny gaps open up between them, and through those gaps, fluid begins to flow. Not blood, not oxygen. A special fluid that washes through your brain tissue, collecting waste as it moves. It's like turning on a high-pressure cleaning system inside your own mind. Think about that for a second. While you're unconscious, not aware of anything, your brain is literally being rinsed from the inside. Toxins are swept away, debris is cleared out. The system is reset, and this isn't a small effect. The cleaning activity during sleep can increase dramatically, far beyond what happens when you're awake. It's as if your brain says, I can't do this while you're using me, so I'll wait until you're gone. Now here's where it gets serious. What happens if you don't sleep enough? The cleaning doesn't finish, waste starts to accumulate, and over time that buildup has been linked to serious brain problems, memory loss, cognitive decline, even diseases like Alzheimer's. In fact, some of the proteins cleared during sleep, they're the very ones found in those conditions. So when you skip sleep, you're not just feeling tired, you're leaving trash inside your brain. Imagine trying to think clearly while your system is slowly clogging. That's what sleep deprivation really is. Not a lack of energy, but a buildup of noise. And here's the part most people never realize. You cannot power through this. You can drink coffee, force focus, push your body, but none of that replaces the cleaning process, because this isn't about willpower, it's about maintenance at a biological level. Your brain is the most complex structure we know, and every single night it requires a full reset. Not optional, not flexible, essential. So when you lay down tonight, remember this, you're not wasting time, you're not being unproductive. You're allowing your brain to do something you could never do consciously, clean itself. And once that system is clear, once the noise is gone, something even more fascinating can happen. Because a clean brain is a brain ready to rewrite itself. Let me ask you something, and really think about it. Do you believe your memories are accurate? That what you remember from yesterday is exactly what happened? Most people say yes, but that's not how memory works. Your brain is not a camera. It doesn't record your life and store it perfectly somewhere. It does something far stranger. It reconstructs your experiences, and the place where that reconstruction happens is while you sleep. Here's what's really going on. Throughout the day, you're flooded with information, faces, conversations, sounds, emotions, decisions, way too much to store. So your brain doesn't even try. Instead, it creates temporary, fragile traces like rough drafts, unfinished, unorganized, easy to lose. If nothing else happened, most of your day would simply fade away, gone by morning. So your brain waits. It waits until you fall asleep. And then it begins the real work. During certain stages of sleep, your brain starts replaying your day. Not consciously, you don't see it happening, but deep inside patterns of neural activity fire again, in almost the exact same sequence. It's like your brain is watching a recording, but not to remember to edit. Important moments get strengthened. The things that mattered, what you learned, what you felt, what surprised you, those signals are reinforced. Connections between neurons become stronger, faster, more permanent. At the same time, everything else gets deleted. Details that don't matter. Random noise, irrelevant information is quietly erased. Not because your brain failed, but because it's optimizing. Think about that. Every night, your brain is deciding what is worth keeping and what is not. And you're not part of that decision. Now, here's where it gets unsettling. When your brain replays a memory, it doesn't just strengthen it, it can change it. Small details shift, emotions get adjusted, meanings evolve. So the memory you wake up with is not the original. It's the edited version, which means something important. The past you remember is not a perfect record. It's a story your brain has rewritten over and over again. And yet this isn't a flaw, it's a feature. Because a perfect memory would actually be a problem. You'd remember everything, every detail, every distraction, every useless moment. You'd be overwhelmed, unable to focus, unable to think clearly, so your brain does something brilliant. It compresses your life, extracts meaning, builds patterns, spins what matters, and throws the rest away. That's how learning actually happens, not in the moment, but after. During sleep, this is why studying all night doesn't work the way people think. You might expose your brain to information, but without sleep, there's no consolidation, no editing, no strengthening, no real memory. And it explains something else too, why you sometimes wake up understanding something you didn't the day before. It's not random. Your brain has reorganized the information, connected pieces that didn't connect before. Turned confusion into clarity. So the person who wakes up in the morning is not exactly the same person who went to bed. Same body, same face, but a slightly different brain. Rewired, refined, updated. And here's the real twist. This is happening every single night, quietly, automatically, without your awareness. Your identity, what you know, what you believe, what you remember, is being reshaped while you're gone. So the next time you trust a memory, ask yourself, is this what really happened, or is this what my brain decided to keep? Because sleep doesn't just restore you, it edits you, and what it chooses to keep becomes your reality. Let me ask you something strange. Have you ever gone to bed stuck on a problem, completely confused, no answer in sight, and then woken up the next morning with clarity? Not just a little better, but obvious. Like the answer was there all along. That feeling is so common. We almost ignore it. We call it sleeping on it, as if time alone solved the problem. But time didn't solve it, your brain did. Here's what's really happening. When you're awake, your thinking is narrow-focused, logical, step by step. You follow rules, you stay inside boundaries, and that's useful, but it's also limiting because many problems, especially complex ones, don't have straight-line solutions. They require unexpected connections, and your waking brain struggles with that. It gets stuck. It loops, it keeps trying the same patterns over and over again, but then you fall asleep and something remarkable happens. The rules change during sleep, especially in dreaming states. Your brain becomes far less rigid. The strict filters that control your thinking loosen. Unrelated ideas start to connect. Distant memories interact. Concepts that would never meet during the day suddenly collide. It's like your brain enters a different mode, not focused, but exploratory, not logical, but associative. Imagine trying to solve a maze. While awake, you walk carefully through each path, hitting dead ends, turning back, trying again. But during sleep, it's as if your brain lifts above the maze and sees the entire layout at once. Connections you couldn't see before become obvious. This is why some of the most famous ideas in history came from dreams. A structure, a melody, a solution appearing fully formed after sleep, not because they came from nowhere, but because the brain finally had the freedom to connect the pieces. Now here's the key insight. Your brain is always trying to solve problems, even when you stop thinking about them, even when you forget them completely. When you sleep, those unfinished problems don't disappear. They stay active, quietly running in the background, being reorganized, reshaped, explored from new angles. And because your conscious mind is offline, there's no interference, no overthinking, no doubt, no forcing the wrong solution. That's why the answers often feel so simple in the morning, because the complexity was stripped away. What remains is the essence. But there's something even deeper happening. Sleep doesn't just help you solve existing problems. It helps you discover better questions. Sometimes the reason you're stuck is because you're asking the wrong thing. Looking at the problem from the wrong angle, framing it incorrectly. During sleep, your brain can shift that frame, change the perspective, reinterpret the situation entirely. So you don't just wake up with an answer. You wake up seeing the problem differently. And suddenly, what felt impossible becomes manageable. Now think about what this means. Every time you push through exhaustion, force yourself to keep working. Refuse to rest. You're cutting yourself off from one of the most powerful problem-solving systems you have. You're trying to solve everything with only half your brain because the other half does its best work in the dark. So the next time you're stuck, don't just push harder. Pause, step away. Sleep. Let your brain do what it was designed to do, work without pressure, connect without limits, solve without you getting in the way. And when you wake up, pay attention, because the answer you were chasing might already be there. Waiting, let me ask you something. Have you ever had a dream so strange, so vivid, so emotionally intense, that when you woke up, it felt real? Not just images, but fear, relief, confusion, sometimes even answers. And then you hear people say dreams are just random noise. Just your brain firing aimlessly. No meaning, no purpose. But think about that for a second. Why would your brain, the most complex, energy-demanding organ you have, create entire worlds every single night for no reason? Evolution is not wasteful. It doesn't keep expensive processes around just for entertainment. If something happens every night across almost every human being, it's doing something important. So let's look closer. When you dream, your brain is not inactive. In fact, some areas, especially those tied to emotion, memory, and imagination, become highly active. At the same time, the part responsible for strict logic and control goes quiet. That combination is powerful because it creates a state where you can feel deeply, imagine freely, and connect ideas without being interrupted by "that doesn't make sense." Now, here's the key idea. Dreams are not random. They are simulations. Your brain is running scenarios, testing possibilities, replaying situations with variations. Think of it like this. If you had a dangerous world to live in, wouldn't it be useful to have a system that lets you practice without real consequences? That's what dreams are. A built-in virtual reality system. You face fears. You experience failure. You navigate confusion, but you do it safely. Inside a controlled environment. This is why so many dreams feel emotional, because your brain is not just showing you images. It's training your reactions. Let's say you're anxious about something, a conversation, a risk, a decision. During the day, you might avoid thinking about it. Push it away. Ignore it. But when you sleep, your brain brings it back, not to torture you, but to process it, to explore outcomes, to reduce the emotional weight. And here's something fascinating. People who dream about stressful experiences often handle them better in real life, because in a way they've already been there. Now think about how strange that is. You live through events that never actually happened, and yet they change you. That's not random. That's training. And dreams don't just simulate fear. They simulate creativity, possibility, new combinations of ideas, because without the strict rules of logic, your brain can experiment freely, wildly. This is why dreams can feel bizarre. Time doesn't behave normally. People change identity. Places shift instantly. It feels chaotic. But underneath that chaos, your brain is exploring connections that waking thought would never allow. It's testing the edges of your understanding, stretching your perception, expanding what's possible. So when you wake up and say, that was just a weird dream, you might be missing the point, because what felt like nonsense could be your brain working through something real. A fear, a memory, a problem, an idea. And here's the deeper truth. Dreams are one of the only times your brain operates without outside input. No screens, no noise, no distractions, just pure internal processing, which means what you see in dreams is coming from you. Your experiences, your emotions, your hidden patterns. So instead of dismissing dreams, start paying attention. Not every detail, but the feeling, the themes, the patterns that repeat, because your brain is speaking in a different language, and if you learn to notice it, you might understand yourself on a level most people never reach. Because in the end, dreams are not random stories. They are reflections